do it again. Wanna do it again. Do it, do it. Let's do it again. Sometimes rain, moving when I hear the sound, like you and me,
Are we really sure? Can a love that lasted for so long still endure? Do I really care? Hey, hey, let's talk about the distractions going on elsewhere. I keep hearing footsteps, baby, in the dark.
things I say and do may not come clear through. My words may not convey just what I'm feeling, but I hope you recognize what's right before your eyes. Oh, your heart should realize from where I'm dealing. Baby, I'm trying to show you that I love you. Baby, I'm trying to show you that I care. Baby, I'm trying to tell you that I need you. Baby, I'm trying to tell you that I care.
Find myself awaiting for that sweet awakening. Hey, brightness of the golden road. Hey, a mind with no ceiling. Wanna see daylight, daylight.
Can you feel it? Touching you. Don't you feel it? My temperature's rising, and it's not surprising. when you're close to me, girl, it's so tantalizing. I can't help myself, I get so excited. Why do I act in this fashion? Why can't I control my passion?
I must relax you. I mean, totally relax you. Because love is a kind of a thing that you shouldn't do unless you're totally at ease. So baby, let me totally relax you to where you feel that you're ready for anything. Let me put my hand right there. Lord have mercy. Right there. And together we'll fly high in the sky. Don't be afraid to touch me, baby.
Billy Ray was a preacher's son, and when his daddy would visit, he'd come along. When they gathered around and started talking, Cousin Billy would take me walking. Out through the backyard we go walking. Then he looked into my eyes. Lord knows to my surprise, the only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. The only boy who could ever teach me was the son of a preacher man. Yes, he was. He was. Yes, he was. I remember when we met, your eyes I can't forget. They told me a lot about you. From the look upon your face, this feeling I could trace. Girl, it's like you needed love. Ooh, that smile you gave from my hello would light up my world all aglow. But I just kept my cool. When you put your hand in mine, I knew that it was time to let you know
motive. Yeah, that old saying is true. But I can't understand sometimes, baby, why I'm so weak for you. Listen, I can leap tall buildings in a single
one night. I will keep you here until 4.
I'm humming in the sun, fun for everyone. I'm laying here, grooving, humming in the sun, sure enough fun for everyone. Humming in the sun. Sure enough fun for everyone. All I really need is lazy time. I can feel the sun, and it's all mine. Humming in the sun. Yeah. It's sure enough fun for everyone. Humming in the sun. Sure enough fun for everyone. I'm humming. I wanna play my violin.
My name is my name. I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
Great, another broken white boy for us to fix.
That's my secret, Cat. I'm always angry.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I can do this all day.
Wakanda forever!
And welcome, Internet, to another episode of Views from the 616, the blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is one of your hosts, as always, Tatiana King, a.k.a. The Life and Times of Sharon Carter, a.k.a. the coldest Winter Soldier ever, Tesseract Thompson, Fax the Destroyer, Schrodinger's Cap, and Ravana Renplaya. And as always, I am joined by my very well-dressed co-host.
Oh, thank you very much. It's your boy, DJ Ben Amin, a.k.a. the Off-White Panther, the Power Toker, John Walk It Out, a pimp named Sam Wilson, the Sad Titan, Hank Grimm, Black Tom Petty, Grandmaster Flash Gordon, Karen Civil War up in here. Let's go!
That's gold standard, Ben. I mean, gold.
Thank you very much.
Freaking standard. Thank you to everybody who is joining us. Shout out to everyone on the twitch.tv/forallnerds. You are where the party is. You know that you got to be there to see us in all of our full in color glory. As always, thank you to everyone who's been supporting us throughout the weeks, throughout the years, throughout the multiverse. We appreciate you. And thank you to everyone who's been hitting us up on the patreon.com/forallnerds, been hitting us up on the tpublic.com/stores/forallnerds. I see you with your beautiful Wong was right shirts. I see you with your beautiful Storm on a motorbike shirts. You see my little, or my cute little, what is this, sweatshirt that I'm wearing today? Ben, I mean, thank you. And this is one of the most fire designs ever. Shout out to Sketch Sawyer for that. Shout out to Ben. I mean, he's representing for the anime today. I see you with the motorbike over there. Kaneda Tetsuo. I see you.
You know, I'm rocking for the post-apocalyptic worlds today because that's what we're discussing.
Talk about it. We're talking about episode 8 of What If, titled What If Ultron Won? And post-apocalyptic, I think, is the most minimum thing you can say about how effed up this episode is. I had said it on Twitter. I think Marvel was big wilding in this episode, and it's to great effect. I mean, this is a positive. This is a compliment, but to great effect, they were big wilding on this episode. Before we get too deep into things, I just want to really stress this point. This is the most beautiful, gorgeous, insane animation I've ever seen done for a series. When I say that the time and effort and beauty that has been done when it comes to the lines, when it comes to the colors, when it comes to the mixing of cell shading and CGI and all sorts of different techniques, you have to give it up to the animators of Marvel and everyone else who's involved in the creation and the production of the show, What If, because this is just the most gorgeous stuff I've ever seen. And if nothing, I really want them to get awards just for the production alone, if nothing else, because I am floored every single time I watch an episode. And this episode, again, was unlike any other.
You think it's better than like things like Beastars?
I wouldn't say the word better. I just think it's up there. Like Beastars is another example of incredible animation, just out of this world. Yeah. I just also want to just point out that What If this series has really surprised me in the level of detail and expertise and approach to animation in general, especially Western animation, if you will, or from Western characters.
I fully agree there. Like on my rewatch, it popped into my head. I was like, yo, I know Tatiana's watching this. And I know she's being like, yo, this animation is fucking silly.
Yeah, I was screaming.
and shout out to Kimsonian, our peoples, because he texted me like, yo, this episode's crazy. But when I was rewatching it, I had this thought. I was like, yo, Marvel could probably slack a bit. You know, like Like we've
In
seen,
what way?
like okay, like we've seen Venom 2 at this point, and we'll discuss it more on a separate episode. And we both enjoyed it for the most part. And okay, and yeah, we'll get into that more later. But it's still not like even when the MCU is formulaic, it's formulaic with that shine on it. You know, where it's like it might be a formula, but it's a good ass formula. You know, it's like Coca-Cola back in the day. Like that shit was delicious. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, it's better than it is now.
I don't know. I barely drink Coke now. You know, it's just like straight up. Like that stuff is like, you know, it cleans off batteries. I can't F with that. You know, I don't really mess with that much. I'm sure it's good though. You know, I'm sure it's still that crack. But anyway, it's like this is that shine, and then their animation. I'm like, that's a lot. You know, to have this dope animation that costs a lot. It's well done. It's stupid. So they could have slapped a bit. But they really didn't. You know, I feel like What If is really like exemplary. You know, it's a fantastic, like it's really well done. Like that shot of Hawkeye falling into the mass of Ultron robots is just
it's gorgeous. We're oh man,
yeah,
we're gonna get into that.
It's up there with like when Kanan, spoilers, in Rebels goes out, and you know that I still ain't even watched the episodes after that. But that beauty of that moment is the same thing where it was like, oh.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes What If so special. There's so many beauties of the moments in all of the stories. And yes, these are fantastical stories that just drive deeply into the imagination of literally of what if certain characters were put in different scenes or scenarios. What if people were allowed to win that should have never have won and all this other stuff. Like, I just think that the exemplary part of it is why I enjoy this series so far. Okay, before we get into things, I'm happy to announce that Target is sponsoring this week's themes of the episode. Target is partnering with HBCUs to support the next generation of Black talent. One of the ways Target is teaming up with HBCUs is through Target's HBCU Design Challenge, where students submit designs to be included in Target's Black History Month collection. Winners also receive a cash prize, equipment, mentoring, and networking opportunities. Check back during Black History Month to see the latest winners' designs that will be featured in Target's 2022 Black History Month collection. Celebrate your legacy. Invest in the future. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Visit target.com/Black Beyond Measure to learn more. With that said, let's get into it, into the themes
of the episode.
And we're going to start with explaining, mentioning that single choice. And now, like, I feel like the term Nexus event doesn't really even apply anymore.
Nah.
There's so much crap going on. But that single choice, that one point in time that's different, that changes what we know from the sacred timeline. And what I've also learned is it's not really just one point. It's like several steps that, if you will, it kind of cracks that prism of what we know of that reality, right? So in this one, the title is that Ultron won. What if Ultron won? And as we know from the sacred timeline, Tony, with help from the Avengers in many ways, creates Vision, right? Then, you know, we get into the whole Age of Ultron MCU film, which, depending on who you are, you may or may not like it. But it's an integral piece of the sacred timeline story. Instead of that happening, we get Ultron creating his organic body to merge man, mind, and machine. And had Ben actually said it last week, he corrected me. I was like, yo, it looks like Vision in Ultron suit. He said, no. It's Ultron in a Vision suit.
Straight up.
And boy, was you motherfucking right.
Straight up. Ain't no Vision at all in this.
Ain't no Vision to speak of. I think a lot of people also have to remember that Vision is a culmination, and that's why I mentioned the Avengers. Like, it wasn't really just Tony that created Vision. It's the Avengers.
Yes.
Everything that Vision has learned up to that point, even from his birth, like he was birthed from the lightning of Thor's hammer. Like, like there are pieces of humanity and love and empathy and other stuff that is imbued within Vision, which is why he behaves the way he behaves, good or for good or for, you know, good or worse. But the fact is, he's his own being because of that. Ultron ain't got none of that.
None of that. Ultron's programming is to put a suit of armor around the world to bring peace into our time. And
Right.
in that method, he achieves it like an AI would, through the most ruthless, straight to the point, ones and zeros. How do I, solve this issue?
And
Humanity's a problem.
And
Wipe
it's
them
those
out.
strict parameters born of Tony Stark's program.
No.
This is initially born from Tony Stark's program, as you say, the zeros and the ones, that you should obtain peace. It's like, but where are the safeguards, right? Where are the fail safes, if you will? Where are the Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics in there? Like, where's the first do not harm humans? That's nowhere to be found. And that's what I'm just saying. Like, when you, as smart as you are, if you're Tony Stark, if you whomever, these thoughts don't enter your mind. And maybe those are in there, and Ultron was just so powerfully programmed that he just overcame those safeguards. But I'm just trying to figure out, like, how could you build something like that and not have some type of fail safe?
Tony, ego.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how he doesn't, that is, but Ultron also becomes self-aware before Tony is ready for it, too. Ultron,
This is true.
Yeah.
And he becomes self-aware. Now, he's becoming self-aware, is it because the combination of the Mind Stone?
Mm-hmm.
And as we see in this episode, they use that Mind Stone, or Tony uses that Mind Stone to build Ultron. As you say, Ultron, it seems like, just becomes way more self-aware quicker than anyone can really anticipate. And at that point, Ultron becomes unstoppable. To the point, he's able, let's fast forward just a little bit, he's able to successfully launch nuclear missiles across the world and effectively destroy everything and kill everyone, surprisingly enough, except Natasha and Clint.
Yeah, that's
because they're in the Quinjet, but I'm like, literally everyone in the world dies except for them two.
No, not everyone. He hunts down the rest of them. When we see them later on, with the robot arm, that's later. So that's
later, like, after he's been hunting down.
Yeah. Not everyone dies right then. It's just how Skynet did it.
That's what I'm saying. This is very Sarah Connor and her son roaming the planet.
It's straight up Skynet. Skynet nuclear bombed the world and then unleashed the robot army upon the world to hunt down the remnants of humanity. And also for me, it was like, that was a very, I won't say traumatic, but I guess triggering scene for me, because as a child who grew up in the 80s and 90s, especially the late 80s, it was still in the 80s when it was like
the Cold War stuff?
Yeah, when I was really young, especially in Houston, and I was a very self-aware child, there was this film, The Day After, that depicted what would happen in a nuclear war. And they had shots like that of all the missiles launching, and I see this as a very young child, and it scarred me.
That's very triggering.
Yeah, in Houston, they would have alarms for, nuclear war. Like every Friday, to test it, to make sure that it was working, that you would hear all over the city.
Those alarms, depending on where you live in the country, those tests still kind of happen. You hear those alarms, and they're very eerie. And,
yes.
And even in like places like New York, like if you pay Brooklyn, you can pay attention, especially in buildings. You can see like nuclear fallout shelters and stuff like that. You see the little symbols, them old signs still there, and it's wild. Like, to even, as you say, to even think about that, it's so triggering. And yeah, it's that imagery, the mushroom clouds, the multiple mushroom clouds, the idea of those, that classic imagery of all the silos opening up on ships and in the heartland of America, and it's just it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And you mentioned it. Ultron believes the only path to fulfilling his programmatic directive of maintaining, in his case, perfect peace is to kill everyone, right? As you say, that the Skynet directive. Well, you're telling me you want A, and the only logical way to get to A is to eliminate all these variables, and that's what he goes and does.
Can't fault him.
You know what? And the method of humanistic thinking, like, right? There's it has nothing to do with emotion. This is just a logic tree, right? Mm-hmm. So, in a way, sure, you can't fault him, but goddamn, Ben.
But I'm also the person who, when I watch The Matrix and Agent Smith starts talking about, it's Agent Smith, right? Yeah. Agent Smith starts talking about how humanity is a cancer on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah.
You're like, he's not wrong, though.
Man has some points.
We are living in the issues right now. In some ways, really, Ultron, to me, he's like the broadly extended version of Thanos' philosophy. And I say that to mean, like, Thanos came from a place of lack, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, his whole thing was, let's wipe out
insanity.
Right. What did he say? He said, and they say that as the joke went in like episode 3 or so of What If, like it's not what did he call it? It's not genocide.
Yeah.
It's not genocide. It's efficiency or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he said half because he's like, that's all you really need to get to where you want to go to. Ultron is the program that takes it a step further. Like, nah, B.
Yeah.
Actually, if you want a real, true, perfect peace and explanation of balance, this is how you got to do it.
Is this all the Watcher's fault too? Because if he just shut his damn mouth.
Okay. I got lots to say about the Watcher in this episode because my man's is bugging the fuck out.
Can we add, I do have a question that starts from the very beginning of this,
Yeah.
His very first quote, right? What is the Watcher's very first quote?
So the Watcher's quote, and I'm going to go right back up to it. He says, "This particular story, this one breaks my heart."
Yeah. That one, okay. When is he telling this?
That's why I'm confused about, because I'm like, and from the looks of this episode, what it is this is, because remember, he always says, "I've seen everything that's ever happened, ever will happen, ever could happen." And he says, "Yet, what the hell is this?" So from from that quote alone, from my perspective, this is an episode of Earth season 212 where he's seen this episode before. And he's been narrating stories for us, the audience, right?
Yep.
He's in his I call the margins of the universe, and he's talking to us, and he's been narrating and telling us what's going on. And as from like the quote I just said, he knows what's about to happen. He's seen this story before. He's just watching the rerun because he fucks with it. All right, but something's different about this rerun. Something has changed that he did not see before.
So he expected it to break his heart with Ultron killing everybody.
Yes, I with that, and again, this is my logic tree using his quoting and what I know. I'm thinking this is a story that he knew because, as he says, he knows everything. He's seen it before. He thought he knows this how it's going to go. Oh, it breaks the heart. Like, yo, they tried so hard, and Clint lost his will to live, and Natasha was trying, blah blah blah. Like he knew that it was just going to be all bad, but he didn't know. As we're calling him, Ultron Infinite would fucking show up.
So he's really just yelling at the screen when he wants
the
them to find the notes.
Is the nigga in the movie theater during the horror show saying, "Don't go through that door," saying the killer is around the corner, saying, "Girl, why did you fall?" Like that's how I view the Watcher. This is and I have said that before in a different episode, but he's progressively become that person in the movie theater, just yelling at the screen.
Yeah, I definitely in this one because I feel like he's yelling at the screen when he's trying to get Hawkeye and them to find the files. But then, so that's the thing because he's like this, this story breaks my heart. But then he gets punched in the mouth in the middle of this story, and he doesn't realize it's coming.
Because that Ultron Infinite person has severely cracked and completely disintegrated what he thought was going to happen. In fact, that's why I'm like, there's so many, if you want to call them Nexus events, there's multiple things happening that changes the course of what even the Watcher knows. That's the way I'm taking it. And of course, there's especially everyone in the chat, what up, everyone in Twitch, I'm sure there'll be many different versions or thoughts or theories about exactly what is going on. And to your point, Ben, it's a great question. Is he telling a story that has happened already and he already knows the end? Or is he, as we've been seeing, telling the story in real time and then being fucking shook by developments that he did not expect to happen?
Well, if you go by like the Dr. Manhattan theory, because that's who you reminded me of when he made that quote, like the Dr. Manhattan of the Watchmen comic book and the show could get punched in the mouth. It wouldn't, it's not like he would know he was going to get punched in the mouth, but he was also going to get punched in the mouth. It was one of those things. That was the dichotomy of him being who he was. It was like he could see it coming, but it already happened.
Right. And this reminds me of what He Who Remains said before Sylvie killed him. He was just like, I know everything's about to happen up to a certain point.
Yep.
And it was like just this threshold once that crossed, where he crossed that, he really didn't know what the fuck was happening, what was going on after that. Perhaps this is a similar situation. And, perhaps the narration that we hear in the beginning really is the Watcher telling a story that has already occurred. Maybe it is real time. Who the fuck knows at this point? That's why I'm like, yo, Marvel was big wilding on this episode, because especially from the pea-sized brain of a human, we can't comprehend all this stuff being true at once. We can talk about it, but do we really accept it?
Hey, I'm here for it because this episode was epic. Either way.
Epic as hell. And of course, it has MCU film and comic book parallels and callbacks. Obviously, Age of Ultron. The one particular reference here is during Age of Ultron when Scarlet Witch was doing her, in the words of Chico Leo, was doing her finger jammies in everyone's ears, like making them see things, making them see visions. She gives Tony Stark this nightmare vision where he sees that all the Avengers are defeated, niggas is dead all over the not the world, but just niggas is dead everywhere and scattered. Cap's shield is cut in half. Like what we see in this episode is essentially Tony's nightmare that he saw in Age of Ultron. Yeah,
and I mean Tony's nightmare I was also seen in Endgame when Thanos came through and murdered them all.
Yeah.
So that was also that. There's another parallel.
Endgame,
yep, there's another parallel with Civil War. When they're in the silo, jumping up and down through the silo, because that's exactly what happened with Iron Man, Winter Soldier, and Captain America. They have the same fight, escaping the silo with repulsor bolts being shot up at them and all that type of thing.
Yep. We also get a glimpse of Hawkeye with a metal arm. Is that in reference to any comic stories?
Not that I know of. There is the Old Man Hawkeye that appeared in the comic series Old Man Logan, and I thought he might have a metal arm or one eye, but in that, as far as I know, he has both arms and both eyes. He's just old as fuck.
Right. So this should just be a function of, as I said, Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese roaming the post-apocalyptic world, and shit happens where, you start losing body parts and you got to replace it.
Yeah, I saw certain people, you know who I'm talking about, saying, "Oh, is that a Wakandan arm?" And I'm like,
"It's not. It was dead ass just metal." You think a Wakandan arm would be blown off like that real easy?
Yeah, it also looks so terrible. I don't think so.
Yeah, it looks makeshift as fuck.
It looked more like a Tony Stark, struggle. Like when we're down to the last minutes of Tony. That's what that arm looked like.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I really thought the Hulk had been turned to goo by Ultron the way he was lying there on the ground. I swear to God, until they showed his pants. I was like, this man stayed turning to goo. But no, he was just lying on his side, laid out.
Everybody took the L.
Stretched out. Stretched you out. Gave me a little trouble at first, and then I stretched him out.
Yes, there's lots of references from all the different films in this. And obviously all the Avengers themselves. But let's talk about the implications and other related stuff. So... this is the funniest part, okay? I was fucking rolling when this shit happened, all right? Here come Ultron. This is before he's Ultron Infinite. This Ultron with the Mind Stone by itself, he fulfilled his purpose of destroying the planet, laying waste, hack the planet, all that other stuff, right? He's like, oh, I finally did it, right? And it's very similar to how when Thanos, he took that breath of fresh air when he was about to make his plantons. He was like, I did it. You know what I'm saying? So he did that, and then here comes in the portal Thanos arriving.
Mm-hmm.
Not 2 seconds passed before Ultron sliced up Thanos like a honey-baked ham, okay? And took the Infinity Stones for himself. I was bugged out because I was just like, for several reasons. One, what the fuck just happened? Because it was so fast, Ben. I didn't even have time to react, let alone how did Thanos have time to react. I was just like, he was like, man's Ultron said, oh, this is interesting, and carved the nigga up like some Genoa salami. Like, yo. He said, slice it thin, please. Like, yo. Like, my God. Like, I just.
That nigga said, yo, Poppy.
Yo, Poppy, let me get a quarter pound.
Slice it thin.
Slice it thin.
I just could not believe.
All my real rights know when you go to the deli, you want the thin sliced meats, okay?
Facts. I don't even eat them from the deli, but I do love me a egg and cheese bagel, Poppy. Come on, Poppy, hook it up. Oh my God, so good.
Yeah.
$1.50.
So that scene alone, again, I was like, it was like terror laughter. I was like, oh my gosh, but like laughing, but also like, oh my God.
But I mean, I was crying instantly, but what really killed me is when I realized that Thanos was
perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Get out, Ben. I mean, get out.
That man was
Go
split down the
away.
middle, like clean down the middle, dog. Like that man fell apart like he was a Looney Tunes cartoon.
What if has been doing that in every episode? I've noticed there's been at least one thing that happened to a character or a scene where it's they like everything's been so like beautiful and realistic, and then they'll do one like cartoony thing to try to and it's always during the most horrific time.
I mean, and all right, now people have been like, "Yo, why didn't our Vision do that?" Right? You know?
Yes, and that was my second question. So like,
Okay.
bruh, why didn't our Vision do that?
I
Well,
got
we
answers.
I got answers too. I would love to hear your answer. And I already kind of said the answer earlier when I explained who Vision is compared to
Yes.
who Ultron is. But go ahead, Ben.
Well, no. I mean,
You
you
want-
said that, you know. I mean, the short answer is Vision is a simp. Like, as we've seen throughout the series and through WandaVision, you know, throughout the MCU, you know, Vision's a little, you know, he's a sucker for love ass, you know. He thinking too much. You know, you talk about, we don't sacrifice life, Captain. What?
Yeah.
You should have been dead, bro. You know, because you about to
Yeah.
sacrifice 500 billion, you know. I don't know how many lives you about to sacrifice in about 5 minutes. So,
Yeah.
you know, like, you know, the choice is yours, you know, but yeah. And Ultron ain't about that life, you know.
No.
Ultron is about the Zank 1 and 0, you know. Oh, threat, Zank, you know. Like, that's
a
it.
sound effect
You know.
of him taking out niggas. Yeah, I mean, Ultron and Vision are two totally different beings. Like,
Yeah.
Ultron is devoid of human capacity of empathy.
Mhm.
He's devoid of that side of reasoning, of the emotional and the humanistic reason. He's, as you say, 1 to 0. He's circuitry and programming.
Mhm.
Vision would, he's a simp, and he would weigh his options. He would contemplate repercussions, the emotions. You know, how does Wanda feel about this? Yada yada yada. Whereas Ultron just acts.
Acts.
He just says, "Oh, that's interesting. I see you having something in your hand, shiny, zip,
Mhm.
like
And
just
you
right
look
down
like-
the middle."
You look like you flexing on me too. You came out flexing. Like, oh, you missing a stone? I have that stone. Wank.
Efficient, brutal, and direct.
Yeah.
That's
And
Ultron.
Thanos is still, while as quick and powerful he is with all the stones, he is still, you know, a eternal whatever mind. You know, he is not faster than a robot.
He's not fast and robot, and also he has feelings. Okay,
Yeah.
the guy also has feelings.
A lot of them. Yeah, he's kind of simpish himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, talk about little one and all this other stuff. So again, it was just so wild how he was just, there was no coming back. There was no even reaction. It was just like, I'm in this bitch. No, you're not. Like, immediately. And
Immediately.
with that, Ultron takes the stones and becomes, as we're calling him, Ultron Infinite.
Yeah.
And by doing that, and this is what's interesting also, he levels up to the point where he says he can see everything, and there are other worlds that need him.
Mhm.
And you remember, he was at that point, he was done it with Earth, everything. He did his prime directive. He was like, all right, what now, man? But then I feel like this kept happening in an episode where he got to a natural conclusion point, and then someone walked in with like, hey, you want to use my tool to get, to get more powerful? Like, it was just more and more issues.
Now, I do have a question about that, because he had already off Thor. So he knew about Asgardians.
Well, did he know about Asgardians? He just knows Thor is there. Did he? And that's another thing. For what Natasha said was that Ultron took over all of the digital programming and computers and stuff in the
Everything.
world, right?
Yeah.
Which means he's tapped into Tony's database potentially. He's tapped into S.H.I.E.L.D. He tapped into all this stuff. All these databases and places has all the information about other worlds, as you're saying, and all that stuff. So it's interesting that now that you mention it, so Ultron didn't have pre-understanding of other planets and
S.H.I.E.L.D.
people.
knew about the Skrulls since the 90s. You know?
Right, and not to say that he knew where Skrulls' homeworld was and not like that.
But he
like you
knows
said,
they're
there's
out
certain
there.
people, and maybe I don't know. Did they know with the understanding that they're knowing that there's people out there? Would he at least known how to get to them? I don't know. Like these are like little gaps in between a narrative where I'm just like, okay, well, shouldn't he have known if he has now taken over the planet?
Maybe he had known, but he was like, F it. You know, I've done what I said I was going to do. Bring peace to our Earth
To the
and our
planet.
time. Yeah.
Right, because that was his directive.
And
But-
then the stones give him that cosmic vision of like, but you could do more.
Right. You could do so much more, baby.
Yeah, the Stones are like that, self-help book. Like, what if you...
So he self-helps his way into becoming the Borg locus of the universe. And he rains destruction and death across the galaxy in his version of bringing about peace. He goes and destroys each and every planet he's encountered, including, at least of what we see Asgard. He Independence Days that planet. And again, just the terror.
One
like
fell swoop.
This shit reminded me again, Star Wars, that it's as if I heard a million voices cry out in terror all at once and be instantly silenced. Like, the niggas never had a fucking chance. Man's popped in, pulled up with his niggas, did the Independence Day, and was out. No more Asgard. He goes to the Sovereign. They can't even build fucking Adam Warlock before they fucking toast, okay?
No, the Guardians go with them too.
The Guardians
along with Gamora.
Yes, because all of them is there. You see AR Lord shooting up the club in there.
That begs the question, because we've seen a Gamora Thanos in Thanos armor in one of the previews. So we're gonna have to see where that one comes from, because I don't think it's that same one. That one seemed pretty done.
Maybe it could also be throwaway material that they're just using.
I hope not, because she looks so fresh.
Maybe we see Ultron Ultron Infinite destroying Sakaar. They killed my Uncle Korg again.
Yeah.
Ego, the living planet, he destroys. Did the planet come with like make a face like?
He damn sure did, dog. I was rolling. That nigga had the sad face on, like
it was a sad face. Don't kill me.
And that killed me because in the comic book Ego, like they do it in the Guardians movie at the very end when he blows up. You see the face on the planet real quick, but the comic book Ego is just always this giant planet with a face on it. So that's what I've always known Ego as. So to see that real quick and see the sad face was like, oh, that hurts.
Ultron killed Star-Lord, killed his pops, killed everybody.
He killed his pops and him. He got
killed
them
his
both.
pops and him. He just said, I got to get you both.
Ain't no karate movie revenge here, bro. You killed my father. No, you didn't. No.
He also went to Xandar. That's the last place one of the last places that they name, where he ends up destroying Xandar and at the same time destroying Captain Marvel.
She put up a fight though, once again.
But, the levels of power to drag someone to the core of the planet and that not being enough.
I'll tell you, I've always loved Captain Marvel for that power level. Once again,
OP.
Damn, this is the second time I'm talking about Rogue getting punched into the distance, because
Team Rocket her to the sky.
Rogue, in the comic books, her flight and invulnerability come from stealing Captain Marvel's powers. Right. So, but then Captain Marvel gets this binary power, which is the one we see in the movie where she's like cosmically powered.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rogue is now a member of the X-Men, and Captain Marvel was cool with the X-Men. So Captain Marvel's been off in space for a while. She comes back to the planet and walks into the mansion. And in the next panel is Rogue flying out of the motherfucking office. Almost into space, dog, for one punch. So I'm always loving it. It was
like, touch me again, bitch.
It was like the Jazzy Jeff thing.
They threw Rogue out the building like
it's
jazz.
Straight up, dog, because it's like, you see her just walk, you see this Captain Marvel just walk in the front door, and then there's a shot in the mansion, and then
damn.
Out. Yeah, so, but I also got to say, this show doesn't really seem to know what to do with Captain Marvel in a way, because it's like she shows up, whoops some ass, and either gets served, but this is
the continuation of what happens in this show, in the movies. She shows up, whoops, because the thing is, when you have such an OP character like that, it becomes a point where it's like, so what can't she do? Or what can't, forget her being a woman, like, what can't they do? Like, and it reminds me a lot of gaming. Like, when you get, like, they have to nerf these characters. That's determined, for those who don't know, when you especially when you play games like Overwatch, that's what they do to characters that are too powerful. OP means overpowered. If that character ends up being programmed a little bit too strong, they got to nerf it, meaning bring it down a couple notches so it's a little bit more fair for the other players.
Yeah, so I guess murking her. And I still got to shout her out for the last episode, because I just love Thor's interaction with her and him saying, all this power in such a small package. So we still seen that. And then she gets dunned off.
Like I said, she seemed like she was going to be...
Ooh, you almost was at it.
Yeah, she seemed like she was gonna do something. Then the only being we had seen thus far that was gonna do something to Ultron Infinite, but that's Ultron Infinite, which is now exponentially OP.
Yeah.
And then all that happens, and then we get to the Watcher. My nigga. This again, he is the funniest. It's just comedy watching the Watcher spaz. Like the things that he, like, as you say, he's supposed to know everything, know everybody. He's so high and mighty, narrating what we see, and then he's bugged out, like because he's getting shocked out of all of this stuff. Like he's shook, like all this stuff is happening that's not supposed to happen, and he can't point up from down at this point. Mm-hmm. And like as we see, like every episode, he's verbally narrates everything we see. Like he says the quiet parts out loud, right? Like. He's used to doing this while not being detected. So he could be standing right next to you, but he's in his, margins in the universe. So he's like, and Ben Hameen looks seriously at the camera as the light glazes over his sunglasses, right? So this is the Watcher narrating what the fuck you're doing right now. And it's so weird when it comes to the point that Ultron is ascended and can hear this nigga talking. Like, the Watcher, and that's why I mean, like, when you ask me, is this something that has happened or is active? I think it's in the present because the Watcher is presently narrating when we see Ultron look up, like, wait a minute, who's talking? Like it's like, you look up, like, what's that movie we saw? What's that movie where they make the joke where the boom mic comes down? The fourth wall breaks, and it's like, yo, I see that there's somebody watching me. It's kind of like a Truman Show type of situation, like. There is somebody watching me. There is someone else there. I know that even like you're narrating, but like this isn't real. Like what is going on, right? So it doesn't dawn on the Watcher that Ultron has ascended to that point where he can sense, hear, and now eventually see him.
But he's also saying it at the same time.
He's also saying, which is why I'm so like, yo, what is going on?
Yeah, because he straight up says he's ascended to another level of consciousness, which allows him to see.
But that narration doesn't tell you, the Watcher, fam, if he's ascended, he's about to come for your ass next. No, that doesn't. That's what I'm saying. Once again, it goes back to what you said about the Watchers. Like that shit don't compute. What's not clicking? What's not clicking at that point?
But it never clicks for them. That's the thing about the Watchers. It never really clicks for them. They just be doing shit, watching shit until it goes bad. And then, but yeah, I don't, like I said, it just goes back to that idea. This becomes a chicken or the egg situation. And we really don't know the answer because we haven't seen the next episode. So we don't know. My answer is that he's narrating this at points from the perspective of like after the whole episode is over. And then there's other points where he's narrating and getting surprised in the middle of it.
Like he's even using different tenses. Like he's using past tense at one point, and then once he gets found out, it's all present tense.
Yeah. So I think when he's using past tense, it's from the perspective of somebody who's already finished this. And then when he goes into the present tense, and I just think we're putting too much thought into it for Jesus because it's kind of.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's something to think about because as I mentioned, the fourth wall does get broken by Ultron in many ways. The fourth wall of the Watcher anyway. And it reminded me of what you said, your metaphor about when we were trying to understand realities and levels of realities when you gave the metaphor of a comic book, like the person reading a comic book, how they, in this case, is the Watcher, whereas the people within the comic book, they had no idea that the Watcher exists and things like that.
It's funny because Jeffrey Wright, in an interview before the series started, he said that his version of the Watcher was like the ultimate fanboy of the MCU.
It makes sense now.
Yeah, and I was like, that's a weird Watcher take, because I guess that is kind of the Watcher, even from the What If stories, because he's always like, look at this, and that was always his thing in the comics, like, look what happened in this world, look what happened in this world. So I guess that is kind of like the one who has the knowledge of all the MCU because he knows all these characters backwards and forwards. So in that way, it's like that. And this shit was so ill because one, they did like with the Watcher, you see him looking through all these prisms of reality, right? Where you see in different facets, you see different realities. And that's a straight up thing from DC, where at one point, Superboy Prime, this character who's one of the versions of Superboy, was trapped behind a wall where he could see all the different worlds of DC. And what he saw, he felt like, because the Superboy Prime, this dude was like from a world where it was like everything was good. So he started seeing, Batman get his bat broke, and Superman get killed. and all the darkness that had overtaken the DCU. So he broke through the wall by punching it. And it's considered one of the biggest jokes in comics because he rewrote DC Comics by punching a wall. You know, he was like, no, I don't like that. And punch, punch, punch. And then, you know, stuff changed in the multiverse of DC.
Yeah.
And they did that straight up in this episode. So I was like, come on, I know y'all know what y'all doing here. So it was just ill. But I did love him seeing all the facets because that's like what you just talked about is him looking at all the comic books. And it's also that idea of you reading a comic book, one that you know backwards and forwards. Like, you know, any of these on my shelf that I know backwards and forwards. If I picked one of these up, read it, it'd be like, and then suddenly it's like, yo, what the fuck? A whole different story. You know, like when I tried to rewind the wire and make Omar not die. Like if I had rewound it and then Omar didn't die, I'd really have to, you know, left. You know, it would have been time to go.
Right.
Yeah. I would have burned that house down. The DVD ain't enough. No, everything got to burn in here.
When the Watcher like explains that Ultron has ascended, it's a couple of things happening. Yeah, he's Ultron Infinite. He has all the stones. He can see all the different realities, or essentially he's ended up going to see all the different realities. He sees all the different universes, right? Mm-hmm. Also, the silence of the universe is also what helps Ultron see or find out the Watcher. Because remember, at that point, Ultron had basically destroyed everybody else. That universe is devoid of all noise of other beings. And the only nigga fucking speaking, running his fucking mouth is the Watcher.
Talk your shit, my nigga.
And I was just like, where is the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, where's the self-realization that, bro, there's nobody else in this universe, so he can hear you. And I guess again, for the Watchers, to the Watcher's point, he's like, this has never happened before. No one can hear me behind this glass door. Like,
I don't think it's like that. I think it's also like where we said, I think it's that Dr. Manhattan thing where he's like, he knows it's gonna happen, but he can't avoid it. You know, he's like,
the Watcher did not know that was gonna happen. He even said that he was like, what the hell is this?
But see, the what the hell is this? It's like one of those things where he's going to say, what the hell is this every time. That it's just like Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan could act surprised, but he's not really surprised. You know,
but then why act surprised? That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm like. And that's when we start getting into these theoretical conundrums, because you have to be literally surprised to act surprised. You're just acting like you were just a fucking liar. Like, you're a lying ass liar. Like, I can't deal with that. Like, from a conceptual perspective, I can't deal with that. You knew it was going to happen, so you were surprised, but you wasn't really surprised.
No, I think Ultron. I think what we got to go with is like we said, he's reading the comic book, and then the comic book changes
on him. Yeah.
Changes completely.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's a narrator who's telling the whole story from overall, you know, who is like, ooh, remember that time I read that comic book and it was all changed up, you know?
Yeah. So once Ultron finds that, or discovers that there's universes beyond his own, he finds, once again, as we say, somebody new comes in and he's like, oh, I have more purpose. He finds continued purpose in his programming and he wants to destroy more. That's when the Watcher says, you know, a hunger like that, if a hunger like that were to be unleashed upon the multiverse, done. And at that point, that had later, like a few frames later, when we get into like their massive fight, I saw Ode to the Galactus, where during that fight, you saw Ultron actually devour a galaxy, and all you saw was an Ultron head bite down on the galaxy, or, you know, the solar system or whatever. And I just thought that was a cool shot.
Also, his armor that the Watcher summons, that the Watcher summons, is very reminiscent of a lot of cosmic beings in the Marvel Universe, including Galactus, including the Celestials, and also there's another Watcher named Aaron. Aaron the Watcher. Aaron,
okay.
I don't know, Aaron, whichever one it is, who actually summoned a cosmic suit of armor, quite similar to that. So it's been something that they do in the comics.
And let's dive into this fight, because
sweet.
It's as you say, it's incredible, and also it ponders more questions, like where to try to explain, where does the Watcher exist in reality? I've been using a term, the margins of the universe. Like if reality is a notebook with lines, he lives in the margins, where he's not in the story, but he can see the whole story. And it's kind of, I don't want to call it a pocket place, but it's a kind of separate on into itself, which is why Watcher feels like no one could penetrate that typically. Where does the Watcher live?
I would even take it further. Like if you would say the margins, I would say Watcher lives in a bookstore and there's a bunch of books in it, with different universes in it.
Okay.
Like that's how far out of it he is. Like books are universes and Watcher is on a whole nother scale of things.
Okay. Yeah. That's helpful.
Yeah.
During this fight, which I just felt like, especially coming from the fight we just saw between Thor and Captain Marvel, this just took it very much many levels and degrees higher. We saw Thor and Captain Marvel punching each other across continents. You see these Ultron and the Watcher punching each other through realities and universes.
Straight up.
And on a scale that we have not seen before in the MCU, at least. And again, we'll see what happens when we start seeing the Eternals film. But like, we just have not seen stuff like this before.
No. Do we want, like we talk about being punched through realities, and we see several realities in it that they get punched through. The very first one resembles the planet from Star Wars. What is that? Attack of the Clones?
Mustafar?
No, that comes later. There's two shout outs to Star Wars. There's the first one, Attack of the Clones, with the bug-eyed people that they fight.
I don't know the name of the planet.
Yeah, who cares? Then, but that was one where I was like, oh, that's Star Wars immediately, and then a little while later they get punched through and they end up on Mustafar, which is the home, it's the Red Devil planet where Darth Vader has the castle. And you clearly see the castle. I mean, not clearly, but it is there in the background. Same shape, the iconic towers. It damn near looks like the two-tower theme from Lord of the Rings. So this is like the second or third time that we've seen Star Wars shout-outs in this. But that's just a tradition, within properties to give, little shout-outs to each other. And Marvel and Disney both being owned. I mean, Marvel and Star Wars both being owned by Disney now. It's so easy. Yep.
In this fight, you mentioned that really cool armor that the Watcher ends up donning. That don't really help him in the end.
No.
It's kind of like Power Ranger suit at that point, because like he has hands but not enough. And as someone who doesn't normally fight, like you can tell, like most of his moves is all defensive in nature. He don't really seem to have mad offense like that. And Ultron is just a go type of individual or being. And ain't no way, boy. Ain't no way this man could come up, or this being can come up against Ultron.
No, Watcher has never been that, you're not that guy.
He's not that guy. Okay.
Yeah, he's never been that guy who's just coming through and laying hands. This is probably the most I'd ever seen of the Watchers fight.
And that's a question I have. Has there ever been a story of the Watchers or Watu or all of them even fighting? Like, I've never seen the girls fight.
Well, no, I know Aaron puts on hands, but I never read those comments. And I know I've seen Watu involved in stuff when it's like all the celestial beings and they're like shooting beams of power out of their head at somebody. They're doing the Care Bear stare on someone. That's what I've seen. But I've never seen it where it's like him going down and putting them hands.
Okay, so that's just a new thing for What If. Okay.
I mean, no, it's probably not. I ain't read every Marvel comic. I know this man put hands at some point. Everybody, got to put hands at some point. So
it's just part of the story, right? You got it. Okay.
It's a comic book. You gotta lay them hands sometimes.
Honorable mention though to the Watchers fighting, where at one point he headbutts Ultron and says, "I'm the Watcher."
Dog, I cried.
It was very WWE wrestling. I was like, all right,
very
I got
Marvel
you. You got your
versus,
super move.
Yeah, very Marvel versus Capcom with the super move.
Very
too. Like,
Marvel versus
I'm
Capcom.
The Watcher,
like that exchange, Marvel versus Capcom. A little bit of Injustice thrown in there. Like it was definitely gaming right there.
A lot of I thought some Dragon Ball Z up in there because it was like these two dudes, powering up, and
like Frieza versus Goku. Well, not Goku because the Watcher ain't make it. So let's call him.
I mean, he did
Krillin.
make it.
I don't know.
He didn't make it. He just had to run away, and he'll be back.
Krillin's actually a good analogous to him because Krillin's also bald headed. So.
And also, Krillin. I mean, we just during the fight, since we're talking about it, some of the little Easter eggs in it is like. You see the Watcher with the Kirby crackle, which you could see on our own views from the 616 logo and image. that energy, those circular dots of energy, which shout out to the Jack the King Kirby. He would always draw around his characters who were using something like the cosmic power or the power. It's the power cosmic, right? Yeah, the power cosmic.
The
Sorry.
power cosmic.
Excuse me. Yeah, I should know this. But that's something the Silver Surfer is imbued with. He got it from Galactus, the power cosmic. And so to see the Watcher have it, we also see the Watcher pull up a shield, which looks like a version of the magic that Doctor Strange uses. Like it seems to have those same type of glyphs. They're more square than the triangle stuff we see.
It looked like magic. It looked more than just like some cosmic shit.
Yeah, so I think, that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the Watcher, being the fanboy that he is, knows all the different tricks. He's like, I know Doctor Strange magic. I got some of this power. I got this power.
Show me your moves.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Ben, I have another question, another philosophical question for you. So, and let's talk about, this is about in terms of what we know about the universes and what we've learned from shows like Loki and the TVA and stuff like that, where they explain about how and when Infinity Stones have power, or we learned at least in where the pocket that TVA sits in, the stones have no value. They have no power. They're just paperweights. And is it the reasoning is because those stones have been removed from that reality and that reality has been pruned? Is that correct? Or is it just simply by virtue of being in that space, they have no power?
I think B, by virtue, just like Loki.
But wouldn't that also say because it's outside of that universe?
You could work it both ways. The comic books is that the stones only work in their own respective universe because each different multiverse has its own set of stones. So that's the comic book version. Now, as far as the MCU, the TVA has a nullifying effect on magic, on powers, on all that. And I think the stones being there was just to show you how powerful the TVA is.
Right.
Is that it's not just Loki stuff they can nullify, it's anything.
Right. Okay, so overall, the idea is if it's not in its own universe or whatever, it's probably not going to have the same effect, right?
But that's not the case here.
But that's not the case here, and that's my question.
I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's one of the things of not being its own universe. I think it's the thing of being in the TVA. The TVA specifically nullifies things because Loki is nullified in the TVA, but when he's out of the TVA, it's all his magic.
So you're telling me I can take my Infinity Stones from Universe A to Universe B and still be powerful?
Perhaps or perhaps not, because I mean that's like the thing. That's the stones. Like the stones have their own, laws and physics, and they are based off each universe. They come from the Big Bang of each universe.
Right.
But
and I
Ultron,
Ultron. Go ahead. You're about to say
is using his powers in every universe. So I would say yes. In the MCU, no, the rules are different. And he also says it. Anything's possible in the multiverse.
The what if is canon. So isn't this the MCU?
Yeah, the rules are different than the comics. Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. Yep. There it is.
Damn.
I mean, like that's the thing. I always tell people, like, when you get into these rules, you kind of start losing some of storytelling. Like, you want to have as minimal rules. You want to let people just create. And you just want to tell a good story. You don't want to be sitting there like, but then they work. Who cares? Because that shit look dope.
And that's true. It's about having fun, right? I still have to ask the question, like, how, Sway? Like, how is that working?
And I think that the rules are just different. And I think that they have yet to establish any rules. That's the other thing. People take, like, because I've mentioned it before, but I've also said the MCU is different. I've mentioned the comic stuff. But all the MCU has said so far is that the stones and powers that the TVA does not want to work in the TVA are not going to work there. That's all they've said.
That's all it is. Okay.
Yep. So until they say differently, and it's also, I mean, you could, even in the comics, you can change stuff. You could be like, well, Ultron Prime, did something to his stones, so they work in another universe. Boom.
Yeah, you could just write something in between a line saying as much. Yeah,
people always wanted to be like, but this is hard. No, it's not. Things change all the time, bro. It's like, yeah.
The multiverse is infinite. Even Ultron said that joke in it. He says anything can happen in the multiverse.
That rule is like maybe 10 years old at most now. That comes from Hickman's run on the Avengers. That's not like a 100,000-year-old rule. That came when Hickman wrote the Avengers.
And
now everyone acts like, nah, it's like, no, bruh, I got hair older than that rule. I Like, straight up.
As this fight continues to blaze on across the galaxies and the universes, we do see, as you pointed out, the Watcher is now fully corporeal at this point. Like, he's even to the fact that he's perceptive to the naked eye. At one point, when he's punched into New York in the middle of Times Square, and to a reality where in the background we see Steve Rogers being sworn in as president. The regular people can see the Watcher as well as obviously see Ultron, but they can see the Watcher, and he's all again shocked and shook, like, how can y'all niggas see me? And it's just like, again, what is he not like? It's just, I'm just always confused about like what is he supposed to know versus what he's not supposed to know, supposed to happen. But
well, I think at this point everything that's happening to him is brand new.
It's just brand new shit. Okay.
And that's something he's not used to this. Like dude says, like, you're less of a creep now. Isn't this more fun? He's not.
Ultron called him a creep.
Yeah. But I creep. Yeah. And that's Ultron doing that Tony stuff, and I love it because that's Ultron, fully embracing who he is. He's his father's child. Yeah, pure asshole. Always a slight joke to it,
Yeah.
Just disrespectful. Tony.
We see the punching of realities happen. Every punch, the reality fucking changes. They're sitting in New York. Ultron punches the Watcher and it becomes Wakanda. He punches the nigga again and they end up in medieval times. Punches that man again in the Skrulls. They're somehow on a Skrull home planet. Like, it's out of control.
And another big Easter egg I just want to talk about real quick, where we're talking about that Steve Rogers stream. That's an ill moment right there, right? He lands in New York. We see Steve being sworn in as president. But in the background, and I got to shout out Screen Crush and Ryan Airy for their YouTube videos because they're the ones that noticed this. I would have never peeped this and made this ill connection. But anyway, in the background, we see a sign for the Broadway play Olympia, which the same play and the same sign is featured in the Loki one where Loki takes over the world, and we see him giving his speech from Times Square.
Oh, about taking over I'm the president of the world.
I'm the president of the world. So in that episode, Nick Fury is with Captain Marvel is going to wake up Steve Rogers to save the world. So the theory going around is that's that same world where Steve Rogers woke up, put that whoop down on Loki, and he was because he put the whoop down, and he's the dude because of probably Captain Marvel who did it. Just elect the president.
We could go with that. I mean, it rides along a lot of times. Like we were asking, like some of these stories are technically continuations of others. Like it could be anything really. But yeah.
And you asked for that continuation of certain stories, and
I did with much regret.
Yeah,
because it ends up with Ultron winning. But damn.
And there's your continuation of that story. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that reality gets blown out too. Like, well, I don't know. Right at that point, the reality's still okay. They're just smashing through it.
They're just smashing through. I don't know. And again, I don't think these realities necessarily getting pruned. They're just smashing through. They're doing the cartoon running through the walls where they're running in between rooms. Like how you hold the person, you're just slamming them. You're slamming them through the walls, and you just end up in different rooms of the house. I just think that's what they're doing, but on a cosmic scale.
It was like once again another WWE thing where it's like they start in the ring, and then 5 minutes later they
for the ages.
Yeah, 5 minutes later they're in the street. Then they over in the hospital.
That's a hardcore match. That's a hardcore no hold bar match right there. Yeah, no DQ.
What's the one where it's like where they can challenge you anywhere? Where
that's
they run
it. That's the hardcore match. That's the hardcore no DQ match. That's for the 24/7 belt.
Yeah, cats be running up on you in the restaurant and shit.
It's that belt where it has 24/7 rules. Like you ain't safe nowhere, my nigga.
No safe. Catch you in your house, drop the elbow on you.
Shout out to R-Truth. He held that belt for a long time. I don't know if he still has the belt, but I haven't watched wrestling in a long time.
I didn't know they still had that belt. Wow.
For the last couple of years, but like I said, I don't know what they're doing now. But all right, so after this massive cosmic fight or during or what, listen, this shit just don't end. But it does get to a point where like Ultron hems up the Watcher. He's about to squeeze his little egg head, and the Watcher somehow gets loose. And where does my nigga go? He goes and hides in that same collapsed universe that we saw Sorcerer Supreme, Dark Doctor Strange end up in after he, fucked up his own timeline. The Watcher runs back to that very same place to hide from Ultron and then ends up having to ask Strange Supreme for help.
Yeah. And once again, I called it because like I said, everyone who sees this nigga Strange Supreme is like, ooh. Like, fam is a hardcore monster at this point. Monster slutty
Monsters.
Because my man walks through the shadows. You see that third eye of hell. You see the tentacles. You see it all. And then even when he clears that up, it's still bads under the eye. The stress level is at an all-time high. Like,
it's just all bad.
Yeah, so I do not expect to see Strange Supreme survive in this episode. I would say that.
He's gotta go.
I'm putting some money on that one. He gotta go. Ultron gonna have to do that same Thanos to that man.
Right.
Like, nah.
So I mean, as of this retreating that Watcher does, we see Ultron end up in that bookstore that you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. He's in the bookstore now. So does that mean now Ultron is just like the Watcher now? He can see everything that ever is and was and will be.
I guess so. And also it goes mad red, in Ultron's signature color, where before it was more of a bluish, purplish,
it was multicolored, yeah.
Multicolored. Now it's like straight up red like Ultron. And this still begs the question, where is Kang? Where is the TVA in all of this? This still, and is this gonna be the one where we got to be like, ignore the series of Loki?
Right, or
is Marvel gonna pull it all together in that last episode?
Maybe they'll pull it all together. Maybe they say none of this matters, or maybe they'll say this is all happening concurrent with when the Nice King got killed, and that's why all this crap is being. Remember, like we said, like if we're looking at this in canon, this is happening after
Nice King gets killed.
As he gets killed, and we see the different timelines branching out and crossing over, and this is what if the series is a culmination of all that shit happening, right? So. Mm-hmm. Maybe we're just seeing the fallout in present time.
Yeah. So
that's all I got. That's all the explanation I got.
Yeah, I don't think the TVA needed to be involved at all in this series until we got this Ultron Infinite going through rampaging. That would seem to be where it'd be like Kang would have to step in at some point. Unless Kang is, like I said, he sees all of this from an even bigger, he's outside of the bookstore that the Watcher is in.
Right.
And he's like, that's cool, but I know how this going to work out.
So, like, how does this get fixed? Because before he went into, the bookstore of the universe, like, it seemed like, and according when the Watcher was doing his whole, yelling at the screen stuff, it seemed like they were going to try to use Armin Zola, the program, to try to infiltrate Ultron's program and, disassemble him from the inside out. But I think we're beyond that point, right? So how do you, now you have Strange, like, how do we get to the point of actually stopping Ultron?
Well, I think what we talked about last week. We're about to see the multiversal Avengers, multiversal Guardians of the Multiverse, however you want to market and brand this team, which I'm sure they will. Mm-hmm. And I think we're gonna see him collect people from the prior episodes. Like, I think we got a.
You think Captain Britain?
Captain Carter
showing up.
Yep. My list right now is Zola and Widow, Ultron, Zola, Black Widow. T'Challa, Star-Lord T'Challa.
T'Challa Lord.
Yeah, T'Challa Lord, probably Nebula along with him. Captain Carter. That Gamora Thanos that I mentioned, Thanos Gamora, the one where we saw Gamora in the armor. I don't know where she comes from, but I just have a feeling she'll be up in there. Spider-Man Strange from the zombie world. Ant-Man Head from the zombie world. And potentially another T'Challa from the zombie world to T'Challa. Like, I'm down for it.
I'm down for it.
Did I miss anybody?
Hell, anybody could be there because this is sheer chaos right now.
True indeed. So yeah, maybe we see some new characters, like even more multiversal. Like, who knows? Like,
and this is like this episode is, even though episode 8 is technically part 1 of the second of the final episode of the season, which is part 2,
as we predicted. And there's also been the question, maybe that Gamora Thanos came from an episode 9 that was, or what, 10? Because we know that one episode had to get pushed back to next season. So people are wondering, is that like an episode that we might see a character in the final episode show up and we're like, who the hell is that? And we won't learn their story till next year? Or was this supposed to be a 3-parter and it's been condensed to 2? And maybe we won't, maybe that was the Gamora story. So maybe Gamora had her own episode and we won't see that. And then suddenly there'll be this Thanos Gamora in this episode. We're like, what? But who knows? We'll find out.
Got it. All right, real quick with the characters. The Watcher, voiced by Jeffrey Wright, he's become just a delightful comedy as time has as the episode has gone on. Really appreciate him there. Clint Barton, Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner is paying the bills. I think he's one of the few alongside Benedict Cumberbatch who have like damn near every episode they've appeared, they've actually voiced their own characters. Or every episode they've appeared in. So they're getting a bag there. Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, is actually being voiced by Lake Bell. We saw what's gone on with our lady.
Talk about getting the bag.
The tree in the hills, yeah. Talk about getting the bag.
Oof.
Yeah. Arnim Zola, Toby Jones actually reprises himself, but by voice. He played Arnim Zola in the Avengers movies, but he voices him in the.
I'm kind of upset
cartoon.
that to this day we still have yet to get the traditional Arnim Zola from the comic books, where he's this robot body with his face on, with that screen
on a TV
on his
screen.
chest. Yeah, on his chest. I'm still upset.
Yeah.
We keep getting these teases, like we got the little camera eye up, on top with the screen, but all they got to do is just put it all together. And the cartoon was the best way to do it.
Maybe you'll get to see that next. Like you said, they're doing these Dark Avenger team up right now. So maybe you'll see that they'll put him in a mobile type of suit that looks like that.
I would hope so. That'd be awesome.
Because he can't do anything with the legs cut off in the Ultron Sentry bot. So
shot off,
yeah. Sorry, you can't betray us.
That shit was great. Nigga said your team building needs work.
You ever seen that movie, Kids?
I have no legs. I have no legs.
Oh, that was horrible, but it just came to mind. I'm sorry, y'all. He's saying it in the movie. I'm not making a joke. Ultron, voiced by Ross Marquand, not James Spader. For those who don't know who that person is, or that name might sound familiar, he plays Aaron from The Walking Dead.
Also, he played the Red Skull in Infinity War.
He did.
When he went to get the stone from him instead of Agent Smith.
Because Agent Smith decided he wasn't about that life for whatever reason. So
Ross was like, I'll get that bag. And also,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll hold on to that and then coming back for more bags from Marvel. And I also love how Arnim Zola was like, this is not the first genocidal maniac that I've had to deal with, isn't it? And that's referencing the Red Skull and Arnim Zola working together.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And finally, Easter eggs, inspiration, music. We've said a lot about it already. Just a few things just to mention. We see really quick Loki's scepter makes an appearance when Tony is talking about building Ultron.
Yep.
Like I said, we learn all about the Mind Stone, all that stuff. Captain Marvel calls Ultron Skynet when trying to stop him from destroying Xandar. As we know, Skynet is the very efficient homicidal or genocidal rather machine that destroys the planet, as we saw in this. When Black Widow takes Clint Barton, Hawkeye, to Russia, they end up in Moscow. She takes him to the KGB archives, where she finds Red Guardian shield, and she actually wields it for a little bit. Red Guardian is part of the Russia Super Soldier program. And for those who have seen the Black Widow film, there's a lot of history that's revealed there. In that Black Widow movie, he functionally served as Natasha's adopted father. But yeah, you see that kind of connection there.
They're actually in the Kremlin.
Yes, they are in the Kremlin, which is like the seat of power in Russia.
Yeah, and that's
and also within like where they were walking towards is the Red Square.
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow, the Red Room, yada yada yada. That you mentioned it at the top of this review, Ben, but that beautiful shot of Hawkeye shooting his last arrow against all the Ultron Sentry bots. Mm-hmm. For me, that same scene gave me shades of what they call the Massacre of the Valkyries in Thor Ragnarok, when Valkyrie was having kind of that flashback to when she was a Valkyrie. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene where you see just Hela throwing her spears, her millions of spears against the thousands of Valkyries, and it's almost parallel, like that one being versus many, and it's just like a very beautiful, almost fresco-esque shot, and that's what I saw in this that Hawkeye shot.
I think that there's also a comic book cover from Matt Fraction's run, which is one of the primary inspirations of the new Hawkeye series, where he's jumping off against a bunch of people, and it also reminded me once again of Thor Ragnarok, but the comic book we mentioned last week when what's the name, Scourge? Yeah, when Scourge is jumping off of the two M16s, because that was very reminiscent, and more so of the comic book version of that shot, where it's just Scourge against this white background with a bunch of demons, just below him. And that was the same thing with Hawkeye, with just, all the Ultrons below him and in this white background and him falling. That was so beautiful.
Just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous drawings, animation, everything. That's all I have. Anything else you want to mention about this episode, Ben, that we may have missed?
I think that's about it. I do like Black Widow and Hawkeye's interaction through this episode. I know they're not anyone's favorite characters.
Well, Ben,
but
I'm glad you mentioned that because they're usually not my favorites, but I really like them this episode.
yeah, I really liked them this episode. I just love their interaction. They're two of my, well, not my favorites, but I always like them. And I think people, if they do the series like Matt Fraction's run, will like Hawkeye more after that series, because Matt Fraction's run humanizes him and it's so fire, I mean, and I also had this idea that the Echo character, who's I'm sure they're gonna change for the MCU, is the one the woman we see in the Ronin suit in the trailer, is one of those Japanese people's family come back to get her revenge on this man.
Oh, thank God. Would love to see it. Love to see it.
I think that's how they flip that and answer, because they know about the buzz on Hawkeye. They know that people can't stand this man for his racism. So they're gonna have to address that at some point. And I feel like that's how they flip Echo and make her into an iller character and connect her to Hawkeye's history.
I wonder if I like this version of Hawkeye and Black Widow because they were suffering.
Wow.
I gotta be honest. I don't know. I appreciate their tenacity. So
against all odds.
Oh man.
Me against the world.
Thank y'all for listening to us. This has been our review of episode 8 of What If Ultron Won. Thank you all for your love, your support, your kindness, your generosity, and just everything you do for us. Really, we do this for the love. We do this for we're fans. We're fanboys, like the Watcher. But with style and grace. We have hands too. We don't just we're just not just defensive characters. But
these third-board bees on them.
Hey, man. That being said, thank you to everyone in the twitch.tv/forallnerds. Make sure you are following us on that page. That's the only way you're going to be able to chat in the chat room in the first place. If you have the means, please also subscribe to us. And if you don't have the means, but you do have Amazon Prime, you know what that means? That means you get a free subscription every month. What you can do is probably right about now or at some point in the next couple of minutes, we're going to drop the instructions of where you can link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. That way you get a free Prime subscription of your choice every month. Please let that subscription be the For All Nerds channel. Join us every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We do have just one more episode of What If left. So make sure that you are ready and geared up for that. And that's right before we're going to actually be at New York Comic Con. So if you're going to be in New York City next weekend, make sure you follow us. Make sure you hit us up. If you're going to be in person, say what up to us. If you see us, we may have something special to give away. We also have a panel titled Black Businesses in the Nerd Space. We're going to have some amazing panelists there. It's going to be that Saturday afternoon, I believe 3:45. You'll see the promo go out all over our socials as well as from our panelists. Thank you to everyone who is subscribed to us on your favorite podcast platform. We are everywhere. There's no excuse why you cannot hear us. Subscribe to For All Nerds to hear views from the 616. Follow us on all socials. Views from 616 as well as For All Nerds. You can follow me personally, Tatiana King. You can follow this guy, DJ Ben Hameen. Also, make sure you're supporting and following his tunes, especially if you're in Brooklyn. This man is doing live shows still all the time. I know you were just in Restoration Plaza not too long ago. You were spinning there, or you were doing something else on the street. I saw you out there. So just make sure you're following this man. He's putting good work. He might run into people like Similu and other people.
Life is interesting.
Life is very interesting for this guy. We love you that you support us by sharing our show, by listening to our show, by telling people about us. Other ways you can support us, especially from a financial perspective, head up our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds, where you can join any tier and you get special privileges. FYI to those in the tier who are looking to use your special TeePublic code, it does still work. I know there may have been 1 or 2 people who said that it wasn't working at the time. We just have to keep re-upping it with TeePublic. But it's up again, so you can use it to get your merch. Only you get that code. Do not share unless the people are also in the Patreon with you. You can follow us. You can go to our TeePublic, teepublic.com/stores/4allnerds to get our merch. We have some fabulous designs. We talk about, like, obviously the 4All Nerds logo, the views from the 616, the Blackest podcast, the Blackest MCU podcast shirt there. We also have what I'm wearing here, the Storm on a Motorbike shirt. And you could get it on, you could get on t-shirts, tank tops. You can get it on, I have it on a sweatshirt right now. The Wong was right. Shout out to Latina. What's her IG? Or what's her Twitter?
Her Twitter is Tina Scribbles, I want to say. Or is
Tina Scribbles
IG?
or something. Sorry we messed up. Sorry we messed that up. But we know who you are. We love you. We're probably in
on
the chat
Twitch,
right now.
Latina Geek.
Latina Geek. There it is. Amazing. Again, just thank you again for working on that design. We hope everyone appreciates all the designs that go in there. And again, all of this funding and the support goes right back into the podcast. This is how we pay our staff. This is how we pay people who do things like give us or draw designs or collaborate with us. This is how we do things like go to New York Comic Con and cover as press. This is how we do it. We do it through the support of everyone in the fan fam. So thank you so, so much. Also, make sure you're following us on TikTok. We are on there. We have some videos up there. We're going to have some more review videos as well as Comics I Cop videos. Anything I missed, Ben? I mean.
No, but shout out to Target and make sure y'all run the numbers up on this episode for real.
Please
run them numbers up. Hit play. Go hit play again. Refresh. Play it again. Tell your friends. Tell your fam. Run them joints up. Run it up. Play it again. Put it on mute and play it again. To the roof, baby. To the moon.
To the moon.